to you.
Yeah, no. So,
Okay.
all right, here we go. Okay. Well, welcome to the session on applying for tri-agency scholarships. We are just in November, coming up to the master's deadline, but you'll see there is some information here related to PhDs, but today we're going to emphasize particularly what this means for master's students. And I guess I'll also start by saying we're glad to see that you intend to apply. We think that's a really good thing, and we're here to support you in doing that. I'll introduce myself. My name is Elle Chenier. I'm an associate dean in the Faculty of Graduate Studies, also a historian. So I did have tri-agency funding when I was a grad student, and so I have a little bit of experience, although that was from a long time ago. But that said, not a lot has changed. So, all right, Rachel, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, Rachel Dawson, Associate Director of Training and Awards, and I've been in graduate studies now for 17 years. So I really see behind the scenes and in the trenches with these applications. So
Great.
welcome.
Thank you.
And we will skip the PhD information today and just focus on the CGRSMs.
Yeah. And of course, SFU is on the territory of the Coast Salish people, the Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Musqueam. And that's something that we give a lot of thought to in the Faculty of Graduate Studies. Collectively, we do a fair bit of work around thinking about those kinds of issues. Really, really pleased to see more funding going to support those communities that have historically been actually not only excluded from the university, but actually harmed by scholarship over the years. So I'm very proud, as speaking particularly as a Canadian historian, to be part of this change that's going on. And we hope in the Faculty of Graduate Studies that we also get to be a part of that positive change.
Okay, yeah. I'm just going to skip straight to this slide.
Yeah, so as you may know, there are 3 different agencies that oversee or distribute funds to research. And that's the Canadian Institutes of Health Research, the Natural Sciences and Engineering Research Council, and Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council. So it's really important that you know which one to apply to. Usually that's quite self-evident, but for people who are, let's say, in sociology and studying something health related, raises a question for you: which one is the appropriate one? If you need some help with that, please reach out to us. But first, of course, you should review the programs as they're described online and speak to your supervisor. And if it's still unclear to you, that's the time when you come to us. Do you want to take this one, Rachel?
Sure, yeah. And now about the CGRS minister. So it's $27,000 paid out over 1 year. And so that would be divided into 3 terms of the lump sum payment at the beginning of each term. And this fall competition is open. The deadline is December 1st, and that's 5 p.m. Pacific time. So everything does need to be submitted, and we cannot make any changes to your application after it's submitted. So you really have to work in advance. So it's a harmonized program. The eligibility, application process, and deadline is the same for the tri-agencies. And students apply on the research portal is the application, and then the CCV, we call it, the Canadian Common CV. And the Canadian Common CV does take time. It's a lot of drop downs, a lot of fields. You know, they're really aiming for consistency. So strong cup of coffee, get your resume, CV, and start filling that out. Sooner rather than later if you haven't started already. As you progress through the research portal, there are some questions that may prompt to see if you're eligible for any initiative or supplements. So the self-identification fields, definitely go through those slowly and enter those correctly. And you may be prompted to add some additional information. And so we do have a resource page, the CGRSM program resources as well on the tri-agency pages is very good. And going through those, they have instructions for every piece of the application. including page limits, what to include in each section and attachment. So make sure you're following those instructions. And then on our end, we do have the process, the timeline, the resources all in one one-stop shop page. And then we also have a sample document library as well that lives on our tips and tricks for winning applications page. Was there anything you wanted to add to that, Al?
Yeah, just two things. So, learning how to write as an academic or really anything is really something we do by looking at what other people have done and learning from them. And so the sample document library that Rachel just mentioned is really, really valuable because you'll get an idea of what a polished proposal looks like. And then secondly, the system does tend to really slow down and sometimes even crashes around the deadline. So we strongly encourage you to submit at least 24 hours before the deadline, because even if the system goes down, if you don't get it in before the deadline, they will not accept it. So I would say scratch the December 1. My advice to you would be scratch the December 1 deadline and put November 30 in your head and in your calendar as the deadline.
Switch to the next slide.
Yes. Yeah.
So just some notes on eligibility. These are some things we've seen come up over the years. So you must be a Canadian citizen, permanent resident of Canada, or protected person as of the application deadline date, which is December 1st. So if you are still waiting for citizenship, you have to have that by December 1st. You must be enrolled in or have applied for or will apply to full-time admission to an eligible graduate program. An eligible program for these tri-agency awards are one that have a significant research component. We often get asked too if SFU is a Canadian institution with an allocation, and we do have an allocation for this program. So time, you must have completed as of December 31st, which is this December 31st, between 0 and 12 months of full-time studies in the program for which you're requesting funding, or between 4 and 12 months in a full-time study equivalent of eligible master's program, but you may be going on to use the award in a doctoral program. So basically, you have to have less than 12 months of full-time studies as of December. This is a calculation that a lot of applicants somehow get wrong inside the application as well. When you're asked, there's a question. If you're asked how many months you have completed, if you started this September, you'd have 4 months as of December 31st. And then one of the eligibility as well is to have achieved a first class average determined by the host institution in the last 2 completed years of study. So our CGPA for a first class average is 3.67. So we view your transcripts, have a look. If you've reached 3.67, it's kind of an automatic pass. And if not, we'll just have a more in-depth look at your last 60 credits, and we work out the CGPA for that. A lot of students in contemporary arts or in different areas may not have a CGPA, and that is fine. We tend to look at other things for transcripts, what else you've accomplished. And maybe this would be a good time to flip to the next slide, which is a selection criteria, because academic excellence is worth 50%, but there is the research potential and the personal characteristics and interpersonal skills as well. So we want to make sure within your application you're addressing all of these things. And maybe I'll hand over to you, Elle, if you wanted to speak a little bit to where these appear in the application.
Yeah, so academic excellence, as it says right here, is partly your academic record, as well as any scholarships or awards that you've held. Also taken in consideration in this area is if you've published anything, could be in a student journal. If you've published in even the student newspaper, that would count potentially in this category, but it is heavily weighted to sort of achievement. So yes, your CGPA speaks to that, but all of these areas also, people who write letters of recommendation for you also speak to them as well. Research potential. So this is really important, and it's judged almost entirely on your proposed research. And later on today at 11 a.m., I give a 1 hour webinar just on how to write a strong research proposal. But they're looking for things like the quality of the proposed research, the originality of the research, its potential to contribute to the literature. And then they look for things like how significant is this study? Is the study feasible? So an example I can give, I'm an oral historian. So if you say as a master's student, I'm going to interview 100 people, that's not really feasible. If you say I'm going to interview 12, that is feasible. So really just being very clear about what exactly, it's not just what you're going to do, but how you're going to do it. That's the methodology part. So all of these pieces are really, really important. It's so important, in fact, that I talk about them for an hour at 11 o'clock. Will the 11 a.m. session be recorded? I can try to remember to do that. I often say I'm going to, and then I forget. But yes, I will make a little note for myself to remember to do that. And then personal characteristics and interpersonal skills really speaks to do you have you as an individual, as a student, demonstrated the capacity to do this? So in that sense, like past work experience or volunteer experience could be relevant. But it's also like personal characteristics, like a student who, contributes a lot in class discussion, is very focused and determined and highly motivated. Those kinds of characteristics also speak to your capacity to complete a master's program, because presumably most of you, if not all of you listening to this, are already doing it, and you already know that it's very, very demanding. So that's why those things are pretty important to determining the likelihood that the student will succeed in what they say they're going to do. All right, we can move along, I think. So, and if I can just speak to this one as well. So this one is really important. You're asking for a letter of reference. These really matter. So the first thing I want to say is you should be asking for these letters as soon as you decide you are going to apply. Number one. Number two, the more information you provide your referee, the better the letter they can write. So at bare minimum, they should have a good draft of your research proposal, because they don't just speak to you and your past, they speak to your proposed research. And so they need to know what you're going to do, and what you need to give them needs to be as well written as possible. Now, the back and forth could also be a part of the process of getting feedback on the proposal. So if it's your supervisor, and maybe at this point I'll add, you absolutely should have a letter from your supervisor. It's a bit of a red flag if you don't. It suggests, or it implies, that the supervisor doesn't think you're a strong enough candidate. So you should be speaking to them first and talking to them about the process, and hopefully they're providing you with some guidance about the process of drafting your proposal. So the best letters are from academics, bar none. So only in exceptional circumstances should you get non-academics. So, and the only place where I can really think that might apply is like if you're in the sciences and you're working in a lab, outside of academe. But even then, we're still really looking for scholars to evaluate your research. So ideally, and only in exceptional cases should they be non-academics. And it should be someone who you've worked with in some capacity. It could be for the master's level. It could be an undergrad instructor you had. Certainly, if you did an undergraduate honors thesis, that would be an ideal person next to your supervisor. So that's hopefully that's pretty clear about who you should be asking. So who you ask is important, but equally important is giving them all the information they need to write you the best possible letter. And I guess the last thing I'll say is, speaking to things like personal characteristics, there may be things outside of academia that they don't know about that are on your CV. So that you think also speak to these qualities. So if that's the case, I would highlight them on the CV, um, summarize them for the letter writer, so that they can speak to them as well. And then, yeah, I guess the last thing I always say is make sure they know the deadline. You will know when they've submitted, you will receive a notification. If it's a week away from the deadline and they haven't submitted yet, I encourage you to just write a brief email saying, "Dear Professor so-and-so, thank you so much for agreeing to write my letter. I just wanted to send you this reminder of the due date, and maybe the link or something." I never mind getting emails like that. I actually appreciate them, because there can some people, we have a lot of things on the go and things can get forgotten. So, but it is fairly common for them to do it, close to the deadline. So maybe be prepared for that.
And then I can speak to to transcripts. This is one of the things we see in applications that really go sideways or have been uploaded incorrectly. It's really important to have professional, good-looking transcripts that the reviewers can read. Our preference at SFU is official, up-to-date transcripts for all SFU and non-SFU degrees. So if you are a prospective student applying for this award and you want SFU and other institutions to look at your transcripts, definitely you want to use official up-to-date transcripts for all your post-secondary institutions. If you are a current SFU student, we prefer official, but you can use unofficial transcript for SFU only if SFU is the only institution reviewing your CGRSM application. And help with scanning uploading. So please do not use your phone camera or a photo app, but photos of transcripts often are unreadable. They do not look good. They do not look professional on your end. So when you order your transcripts, you can open them, you scan them, you upload the transcripts yourself inside the research portal. So SFU libraries do have scanners for students to use. Staples Print Services also has scanning option there. And if you have an iPhone, the Notes app does have a built-in scanner, and that actually scans quite well. So there are some options there. The instructions for uploading transcripts, there's a link there, and this PowerPoint will appear on our CGRSM page. We also have added to that page a transcripts tips as well for a little bit of help. As you're uploading your transcripts, if you receive an error, 8x11 error, it means your transcripts might have the incorrect file orientation. So they have to be, it's very portrait, not landscape. There's the word. They need to be portrait, upright, not landscape. So I'll go to the next slide, which just has a list of our common mistakes. Elle, did you want me to talk to this, or did you want to address
Yeah, no, I don't mind. So, excuse me. As I was just mentioning about your referees, it's really important that you give them concrete examples for them to write about. It's, helping someone prepare the letter, there's nothing wrong with doing that. In fact, it's really helpful and useful to the person writing a letter if you signal and flag what your accomplishments are. You're just making it easier for them to do their job. So it's always appreciated. It's really, really important that you follow the, as it says here, presentation standards. So all the details about how to format and so on, really important. One of the things we sometimes see is people using acronyms, but they never define them. So one of the things to keep in mind is that your application will be read by people outside of your immediate field. So just to give you an example, if you're in chemistry, it's not going to be read by someone in the philosophy department, but it's likely to be read by someone in biology. And so they're adjacent to you, but they don't know all these acronyms. So it's really, and the standard in writing is the first time you use something like Simon Fraser University, then you put in brackets SFU, and then every subsequent reference, you can just use SFU. So that's the standard practice for writing. So make sure you follow that. It's really important that you cover your methods in your proposal. I'll talk more about that in the session later. Read the instructions carefully. There are a lot of instructions, but we have done the best we can to lay it out for you in a clear sort of way that you can kind of check things off. So make sure you check everything off. If there are things missing from your application, they like for let's just say, for example, the transcripts aren't there, it will get pulled and it will not go forward simply because all the pieces have to be there. So going through that checklist before you press submit is so, so important. And then again, the document library, it's a gold mine for you. And writing services are really helpful too. So if you don't know about them, you really should. You're getting basically kind of like free light editing, help shaping your work. So you should be sharing it with peers. Like this is really your proposal we're talking about. You definitely should be getting feedback from your supervisor. And you can do one final edit. It's probably most advantageous to get them to help you editing at the end, like near the end process, to just kind of clean things up for you. So really tap into those resources. Takes a little bit of pre-planning on your part, but best to get into the habit of doing those things now, because these kinds of habits are going to serve you well throughout your entire career, no matter what you end up doing.
Okay, and I think that is the end of the presentation. So what I'll do maybe is flip over to our website and just kind of show here on our grad studies website. We have our internal donor funded awards, tri-agency and government awards, and then our external and additional awards. The tri-agency and government awards, this is where we outline all different kinds of funding provided by the tri-agencies and government, provincial government. But the CGRSM here, I want to link there and then scroll down, and this is where our information and process lives. So a copy of this presentation is here, and we've got a summary of information there, and the how to apply with the links to where to check eligibility, where to check the subject eligibility guidelines, information on transcripts here, link to the evaluation criteria, and some information about preparing your application and completing your application there. And then, of course, our competition timeline. So the applications are due December 1st. As Al mentioned, definitely work ahead. The system does tend to crash. Referees can come in late. So definitely kind of work ahead and give your referees those earlier deadlines. Then throughout December to February, the applications go through an SFU review process. So each department looks at the application, ranks them, and then they go to a university-wide committee within CHR and Circ and Shirk, of course, with the statuses being updated on April 1st. And so if you are offered an award, you'd go on to the research portal on April 1st and you would see your offer there. Okay, and then we do have, if you are offered an award, we do have the next steps listed below on the website here. So all about how to accept and the setup process, how awards are paid at SFU. So I'm just going to scroll back up and show you on the right-hand side here is where we have a download the transcript information here. It's a little cheat sheet on how to order transcripts and the expectation of transcripts. Okay, I'll go back up to the top of the page. Was there anything else on our website you wanted me to show or to visit, Elle?
No, I think that's great. Thank you.
Okay.
And yeah, you'll find maybe just where when we upload this recording and then the recording for the research proposal session, where you can go to find those.
Yeah, so just one out here. So the Tri-Agency and Government Awards. We tend to group all the resources down at the bottom of this page. So here's all the information sessions here. And we have a recording of research proposal here from Elle, but this is mainly for doctorals. Am I right, Elle? Yeah. This recording here.
I think no, I would say because they're both the same, just the length is different. But what's expected is exactly the same thing. So they apply equally to both, to all, whether all tri-agencies are looking for the same things as well. So yeah, but I will record the one from this afternoon.
Perfect. And then I'm going to click over to award application resources. So if I go here and go down, we've got some information there, but this is where the student a document library lives. And so you log on to here and you can pull up examples of award-winning applications here. So as Al mentioned earlier, if you really don't know where to start or don't know, how to make your proposal look good, there are samples within the document library for that. Okay, I'll go back to our Trade Agency Government Awards page here, and then back to the CGRSM page here. All right, and then maybe would it be a good place to stop the recording and then just open it up to any questions?
Yeah, that
Okay.
sounds good.
Thank
All
you.
right, let me do that.